Alright, so this is just stuff out of my scrap pile. Um, First things first, this is where your gasket and strainer are going to be. And typically, it's either an Allen wrench or a 5/16 screwdriver or nut driver that you will need to remove these. Usually you don't have as good of access as I do here since they're in a tight confined space, but this, like I said, 5/16 or a nut driver, or 5/16 nut driver or an Allen wrench is what's typically in these things. Sorry, I'm working the camera phone or the camera on my phone with my knees. So yeah, I need probably a large flathead screwdriver to pry this open. Jesus Christ. Alright, so that's where your strainer's at. And if it ever looks that bad, I highly recommend replacing the fuel filter as well. This one uses a slightly different strainer than the one that yours has. This is your gasket. It's an old part, so this one's going to be seized on there. You can scrape it off and then clean it up with like one of those Scotch-Brite pads. But once you put your strainer in and your gasket is going to have 3 holes on the top, 2 on the bottom. Just line those back up and then put the screws back on there to hold it together. Oh yeah, and do wear gloves, because if not, your hands are going to be a mess. I'm not going to show you the whole entire step of putting everything back together because that's pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, just tighten it up, snug it up so that it doesn't leak. Then you're going to take a pair of pliers, and there's 2 parts in here. The furthest one inside should be a 7/16. Yep, there we go. You gotta break that loose. And once you break it loose, slide that nut down that line and unscrew the remainder of this. Then what you do, just so that you don't lose this part, slide it in with this nut. Alright, now you're going to open this up. And one thing that I forgot to say, make sure the power is off, because if not, these things will arc and they will hit. And I think they converted from 120 volts to about 1,000 volts. but there's no amperage, so it's not going to kill you, but it will hurt like hell. All right, so you're going to push this nipple in, and then inside of here is your strainer and your strainer and nozzle. What you want to do is, sorry, bad angle, get yourself a piece of sandpaper, clean these electrodes up, and then once they're nice and clean and that's out of the way, you gotta take a 3/4 wrench, put it on there, and then take a 5/8 to the nozzle, and you're going to break it loose. Sorry, let me see if I can get that out of the shot. This is your strainer. Take that out, put in the new one, tighten it up pretty tight, snug it up really good. Sorry, like I said, I'm working the camera with my knees. So yeah, your strainer, there shouldn't be anything in there, but just make sure that you put the new one in and get it really nice and tight, just the same way as you took it out. Just all right, so that's out of the way. And then these are not gapped properly. It's too wide. Usually to adjust those, you have a flathead, or I think it's 3/8. Shoot. I'm trying to get everything focused on the camera, but yep, it's a 3/8. So you want to loosen that up some so that you can work with it. Gapping tool, a nickel. Manufacturer doesn't recommend this, but this is a tried and true method that's been used by many technicians over the years. So this works, and what you do is you place it on the tip of the nozzle and you bring your electrodes too far to the very top of the nickel. All right, I think I loosened it too much. All right, so yeah, you just want these to be right to the top of the nickel, which from where I'm seeing it, it's dead on. Camera's not picking it up too well. So we're going to snug this up just a tiny bit to prevent them from moving up and down too much. All right, and then what you want, now that you have them above the nickel, you want that gap to be the same width as the nickel. So and these are old as hell, so it was just a part that was worn out and left in somebody's crawl space. So I don't even think the gap is going to be right. But yeah, you want, that's way too wide right there. Like I said, you want that gap to be the same width of as the nickel. And then once you get that up in there, or tighten up and straighten out, put that back inside, just work it in there, and then put that through one more time. Bring that. And this one is not, can be just finger tight. It doesn't have to be cranked down like the other one does. And whatever you do not want that plate to move. You see how much it's moved from where the manufacturer wants it to be. These are set from manufacturer, so you don't want that one to move. But it's old, it's not going to be used for anything else, so it doesn't matter for this purpose. Then you're going to take this hose, bring it back in there, tighten that up, and this one you do have to snug it up because this one will have a lot of pressure from the oil. So make it nice and snug. Alright, so that's tight. And then you're going to take your sandpaper again and clean these off really well. Of course, like I said, this one has been sitting in the crawl space for I don't know how many years, but clean those up really nice. You could have done it while it was out, but you want to clean those off too, where the springs are making contact. You want that nice and clean so that you can make good electrical connection. And that's pretty much it. Close it up and fire it back up. I will make another video to show you how to properly set the draft. But once this is replaced and that nozzle and gap is redone, your furnace should be good. Yeah, there's a couple other little tiny steps like that I can't show you right now because there's no oil. You can bleed out the air through that nipple, and all you really have to do is just crack the valve back on to turn the oil. And if the oil tank is above the fuel or above the pump, then it'll bleed out air through there, and then you can just fire it up once you get a steady stream of oil, and then fire it back up. You should be fine. If you have two lines, it usually runs a little bit better because it bleeds the air out itself. Let's see, what am I forgetting? So draft, yeah, that I'll show you in a separate video. All right.